morning, and welcome to Edu News Patrol. Yours truly, CJC. A major shift is happening in education, one that moves beyond textbooks and lectures toward real world results. It's called Outcome Based Education, or what we call OBE. But what exactly is OBE, and how does it redefine teaching and learning in our schools today? For our top story tonight, we go live to our field reporter, Milky Ortega, who is standing by the grounds of Jose Rizal Memorial State University. Milky, how are you doing there? Could you tell us about the story of the word OBE?
Thank you, CJ. We're doing fine here. Behind me is the OBE building of JRMSU, in which in 2012 issued Memorandum Order 46, mandating OBE as the standard for quality assurance in higher education. But what is OBE, or outcome-based education, at its core? Simply put, it's education organized around clear, measurable results, what we call the outcomes. These outcomes are divided into two types: the immediate outcomes and the deferred outcomes. The immediate outcomes are the skills students gain right after a lesson or course, like writing, problem solving, or speaking. On the other hand, the deferred outcomes are the ability to apply knowledge in real life as professionals, citizens, and lifelong learners. It's not just about what students know, but what they can actually do. For deeper insights, let's hear from one of the online lectures of education analyst, Dr. Lawrence Stanford.
Two living voices define OBE's vision. We have the vision of Dr. William Spady, who advocates transformational OBE. It focuses on long-term and lifelong outcomes. In transformational OBE, learning is not significant unless the outcomes reflect the complexities of real life and give prominence to the life of the learners that will face after formal education. In transformational OBE, learning outcomes comprise the knowledge, understanding, skills, and attributes that learners should acquire to enable them to reach their full potential and lead successfully and fulfilling lives as individuals, as members of community, and at work. For Dr. William Spady, education should prepare students for real-world roles as workers, citizens, as well as becoming responsible parents. On the other hand, we also have Professor John Biggs and Catherine Tang's vision, who brought OBE into the classroom through outcome based teaching and learning, or what we call OBTL. In Biggs and Tang's OBTL, outcomes are statements of what we expect students to demonstrate after they have been taught. These are referred to as learning outcomes. He emphasizes designing down from broad program outcomes to specific daily learning objectives. Professor Biggs and Tang made mention of different level outcomes. We have the institutional outcomes, program outcomes, and course outcomes, and then the learning outcomes. The broadest are the institutional outcomes, and the most specific are the learning outcomes. Arranged from the most broad to the most specific, outcomes start with the institutional outcomes, followed by the program outcomes, then the course outcomes, and then the learning outcomes. From the institutional outcomes are drawn the graduate attributes that graduates of the institution are expected to demonstrate after graduation. Let's have, for an example, graduates will be reflective practitioners and innovators in their chosen fields. That is one of that is one of the university's promises. And other claims that the graduate attributes are likewise drawn from the program outcome. Now, the program outcomes are outcomes that graduates of the program are expected to demonstrate at the end of the program. Let's take for the example of the program of Bachelor in Secondary Education, major in mathematics. The graduates of this program is clearly shown as individuals that have the capacity to demonstrate pedagogical content knowledge by designing and implementing lesson plans that utilize research-based teaching strategies for secondary mathematics. And the course outcomes are particularly subject outcomes. Let's have an example of the course of the assessment and learning too. It is the outcome of this course is that students of this course can have the ability to construct valid and reliable assessment tools, including performance tasks rubrics aligned with specific learning competencies in secondary mathematics. Learning outcomes are the most specific outcomes. The teacher is concerned with his or her specific lesson. For example, let's take this lesson as the topic. So by the end of this session, you students listening here will be able to differentiate between the visions of Dr. William Spady, which advocates transformational OBE, and Professor Biggs and Tang's OBTL, and trace the alignment from an institutional outcome drawn to a specific learning outcome for a math lesson. So, sum it all up, in short, while Spady defines the ultimate destination, an education that prepares individuals for complex and real world roles and fulfilling life, Professor Biggs and Tang provide the essential roadmap. Their OBTL framework translates that grand vision into a tangible, technable, ensuring every lesson plan connects a course objective, which build towards a program goal and ultimate fulfills the institution's promise.
The lecture that Dr. Lawrence Stanford just really opened our eyes. He stated that Dr. William Spady looks at the big picture of life after school. Professor Biggs and Tang shows teachers how to build that pictures lesson by lesson. Back to you, CJ.
Thank you, Milky, for making us understand the story behind OBE and letting us have the opportunity to witness that wonderful online lecture from one of the best leading educational analysts at GRMSU, Dr. Lawrence Stanford. Dr. Stanford helped us see the two main ideas behind OBE. The first is vision. From Dr. William Spady, it's about the big questions. What kind of life are we preparing our students for? Second is the practical plan. From the work of Professor Biggs and Dr. Tang, it focuses on the day by day. How do we build that future in our classroom? In short, one idea sets the goals and the other shows us the steps to reach it. This leads us to a crucial question. What are the guiding rules that keep the system focused and effective? What are the principles that ensure every educator, from the university professors down to the classroom instructors, to know that they are working from the same blueprint? Now, let's go further, diving deep into the core principles that drive OBE from its ground. Reporting live at the halls of the College of Teacher Education at GRMSU, Andre Mandaya.
According to Dr. William Spady in 1996, there are four principles of OBE, which are clarity of focus, designing down, high expectation, and expanded opportunities. Let's start with the first principle, which is the clarity of focus. Clarity of focus, this means that the outcomes, what you are expected to know and able to do by the end, are clear to everyone. The second one is designing down. This is how teachers plan. They start with clear end goals, which are the outcomes, and then work backward to design all the lessons, activity, and projects. Everyone you do in class has the purpose to help you reach those final goals. And the third one is high expectation. This is belief that all students can learn and succeed. It doesn't mean we all learn the same thing in the same way or in the same amount of time, but everyone is capable of mastery and meaningful learning. And the fourth one, expanded opportunities. Because all students learn differently, teacher provide expanded opportunities. If you need more time, a different way to learn, or extra help, like more scaffolding from the teacher. You get it. The idea is that most learning can achieve high standard if they are given appropriate opportunities. So if you don't get it the first time, there will be other chances and support to help you succeed. For a deeper understanding, let's interview one of the instructor here in the College of Teacher Education on how they apply these four principles. So, here we are with one of the instructors of the College of Teacher Education, Dr. Paterno S. Paquina, the third. Sir, how many years have you been teaching in the field?
I've been teaching in the field for over 16 years now.
So, in your teaching, did you apply the four principles of OBE, which are the clarity, focus, designing down, high expectation, and expanded opportunities?
I would say in my over 16 years of teaching, in my first year, I haven't applied the four principles of OBE, which are designing down, higher expectations, expanded opportunities, and clarity of focus, because way back then, OBE is not yet famous. However, I would say that in the later years, especially 3 years before the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as in the post-pandemic era, I have been applying the four principles of OBE, or Outcomes-Based Education, by William Spady.
So, as a teacher, how important for your team these four principles are and why?
As a teacher in 21st century, specifically now in 2026, I would say that it's very important that we have to apply the four principles of outcomes-based education, of which first is clarity of focus. As a teacher in the 21st century, we have to begin our class with an end in mind. That means before you start your class, you have to present to the students what's the very goal, why you conduct that. So at the end of the course, or at the end of the subject, the students will be able to demonstrate the required skills, knowledge, and values necessary for the completion of the course. The second is designing down. Designing down, as a teacher, we have to also provide lessons or topics of which the students are capable to grasp. Like if this is the level of the students, then you have to provide opportunities for the students to learn based on their level. However, on the third principle of OBE, which is higher expectation, we will not stop on the level of the students. We have to also give students opportunities to achieve the highest or the peak of their potential, that is setting high expectations, that if they know this level and their potential is this because that is required by the program or the course or the subject, they really have to do to demonstrate this. So if this is their level, you have to achieve that level if that's the highest of their potential. Now the fourth principle of OBE, which is expanded opportunities. With that, as a teacher, when some students are visual learners, others are kinesthetic, and others are auditory learners, and based on Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, our students also have multiple intelligences. We have to give students or learners opportunity to learn in what manner they feel they're comfortable to demonstrate the desired knowledge, skills, and values. Like, even if, for example, in my case, I'm teaching mathematics, which is purely, for example, it's more on problem solving. If the students are interpersonally intelligent, then I have to incorporate in my class collaborative learning. If they are intelligent intrapersonally, which they have to learn by themselves, then I have to incorporate in my strategies individual or independent learning. And with that, the students will be able to enhance their skills, and in the end, they're going to demonstrate or to acquire desirable knowledge, lifelong skills, and most importantly, positive values that they'll be able to apply in not only in the class but in their real life.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you, Andre, for letting us venture through the four main principles of OBE according to Dr. William Spady. And special thanks to Dr. Paterno S. Begina III for sharing his thoughts and experience about the four principles. In his 16 years of teaching, Dr. Baginat emphasizes the importance of the four principles, which are the clarity of focus of outcomes, the designing down from those outcomes, and giving high expectation to all learners, and providing expanded opportunities for different learners because every students have their own identity and it is unique. They have different learning styles. So by using the four principles of OBE, we teachers are guided on what we do.
We will take a short break. When we return, we'll dive deeper into the next logical questions. How does it all connect in the classroom? How do these big ideas translate into daily teaching? We'll explore key concepts that has lessons and assessments together. So stay tuned at Ed News Patrol!
Ano yung lamig silang tindahan? Pag 200 kayo, maumaw na lang yan ibilin sa akong alawan. Ako manggipalit para akong mabusog. Tapos kinuha ko. Mura to? Ang kama eh!
Na, lami no. Lami no.
Kayo!
Unsay pangutan na nimo?
Ang kama nga biscuit!
Unsa ni nga biscuit? Di ni biscuit, usa ni ka snack. Usa ni ka snack. So ganahan ba ka makabalo unsa ning nga snack?
Ganahan!
So nakoy kuan, nakoy mga pangutana, nakoy upat nga pangutana. Kung ganahan ka makabalo sa snack ka, dapat kaning upat ka pangutana nako tubagon nimo sakto. Ganahan ka makabalo dili.
Ganahan!
Kamo dira, ganahan mo makabalo dili. Ganahan. So, karon na ako'y instructions. So sa upat ka question, na ay tagduha sila ka choices. So pag appear sa question, ang inyong buhaton kay is read the question loudly. Unsa kay Rodre? Ang gamon?
Read the question loudly.
So I repeat, if you see the question, read the question loudly. Asta mo tong duha ka question. O kamo dira sa kilid. Tarunga. Basahan ninyo. Kamo dira, tarunga basa niyo ha. Sabot na to, basahon ninyong question. So, ready na ba mo? Ikaw dira, ready na ka?
Ready na!
Kamo, ready na? Ready na? So, let's start. Ay, isa. So, naday kayo nalimtan yung instruction. Pag umanyag pagbasa sa question, naday mo duha ka stick nga gihatag ninyo gayina, di ba? Nay duha ka stick, natoy A ug B, di ba? So, kung unsa to inyong feel nga correct nga answer atong question na, mo tay ituboy ninyo. Unsa ang ito dire? Pag feel nimo ang correct nga answer, unsay kuanan?
Ito boy.
Tuboy. So unsa nga ito? A, tuboy. Ituboy ha, ituboy. Dili iitsa, ituboy. O so mo to. Sige, start na tayo, Dre.
Start!
Start.
outcomes. The answer is Dr. William Spady. The answer is program outcome. The answer is expanded opportunities. Since all of you tried your best to answer all the 4 questions, give yourselves a round of applause.
Na, lami yun o. Lami. Karon, answeran mo ng upat ni mo ka question. Bisag wa ko kabalo, o wa sila kabalo, gi-answer pag-answer. Pero correct po tanan mong gi-answer. Ha? So karon, ganahan na ka makabalo unsay pangalan ni Snaka?
Nahan.
Ang pangalan ni Snaka kay Carl Chase. Carl Chase. Unsay pangalan ni? Carl?
Cheers!
Carl? Carl?
Cheers!
Carl? Kung wa mo nitubag, mga buwang dire. Carl?
Cheers!
Carl. So, dire na ta sa Carl Cheese. Patato pa, ligon pa. Ay, lami pa.
Palit na mo!
Palit na mo! We are back on Ed News Patrol! We've covered the what and the why of OBE. Now, let's get to the how. How does it all work in practice? How do teachers ensure that every single classroom activity is directly connected to the learning goals? For the concept that makes the connection clear, let's go live to the halls of the OBE building at Jose Rizal Memorial State University, reported by Rhea Carmela. Rhea, this is the practical heart of the matter. How do we ensure that everything in the classroom is connected?
Here at Jose Rizal Memorial State University, teachers use a constructive alignment. This concept ensures that every part of a course, first is
From
the
what
learning
we
outcome,
teach
to how we test,
in learning
works
outcomes,
together
this
towards
is
the
what
same
we
goal.
want the student to know
The
or
term
be able to
constructive
do.
alignment
The
was
second one is the teaching learning
popularized by
activities.
John Biggs, building
This is
on
the actual
William
exercise
Spady's concept
and
of
lesson we
designing down.
use in the classroom.
It is a process
And the
of
third
creating
one
a
is
learning
the assessment
environment
task.
Does
This is the
directly
test or
support the
project
achievement
used to
of
measure
desired learning
success
outcomes
of the student.
In a constructively
When
aligned
these three are
classroom,
aligned,
the learning
three main
environment
elements must be
becomes
perfectly
highly
in sync.
focused on attainment. Now, to better understand how this is applied in an actual classroom settings, let's look at this aligned curriculum model. This isn't just a simple diagram. It is a blueprint of constructive alignment. The aligned curriculum model is a visual representation of John Biggs' theory of constructive alignment. It illustrates a designing down process where every component of a course is synchronized to support specific learning goals. The diagram breaks the curriculum into three interconnected stages. First is we have the intended learning outcomes. This is the starting point where outcomes are formulated first. And the second one is the assessment regime. This stage organizes how the student's performance will be judged against the specific criteria derived from the outcomes. And the last one is the teaching and learning activities. These activities are organized to teach the students specifically how to meet the assessment criteria. For further insight, we interview Professor Vesper S. Sheras, one of the instructors from the College of Teacher Education, to know how do they ensure that every part of a course, from what they teach to how they test, works together toward the same goal.
Dr. Vesper Sheras stated that to ensure every part of a course works toward the same goal, she utilizes constructive alignment, a framework where learning outcome, teaching activities, and assessments are deliberately linked. These are the steps she used. First, identify desired result. Make sure that these are well-defined and specific, measurable learning objectives using action verbs. Second, decide exactly how student will demonstrate mastery. When it is about application, the assessment must be a performance task, not a multiple-choice quiz. Third, ensure that the learning objectives must align to its corresponding instructional activity and assessment task. Fourth, every activity chosen must directly help students practice the specific skills required for the final evaluation. And the last step is engage in continuous reflection and refinement in order to respond to gaps. By ensuring that objectives are well defined, assessment as maps, and teaching strategies as vehicles, the entire course becomes a purposeful and unified journey.
That is how one of the instructors of the College of Teacher Education ensures that every part of a course, from what they teach and how they test, works together toward the same goal. Back to you, CJ.
Thank you, Leah, for that excellent explanation of constructive alignment. And our thanks to Dr. Vesper Sheras for sharing her practical experience on making it work in the classroom. Now, there's another powerful curriculum design path that complements this approach, known as the Understanding by Design, or what we call UBD. To help us understand what is UBD and how it's applied, let's go back to our field reporter at San Rizal Memorial State University, Milky Ortega. Milky, can you explain to us what is Understanding by Design, or what we call OBE, and how is it used to structure learning?
According to Wichens and McTay in 1998 of Understanding by Design, or UBD, give these three stages. The first stage is to identify the desired outcomes, and the second stage is to determine acceptable evidence, and the last stage is to plan learning experiences and instruction.
Understanding by Design, or UBD, is OBE and OBTL in principle and in practice. The first stage is to identify the desired results. Identifying desired results is identifying outcomes, the first step in OBE and OBTL. It answers the questions of what should students ultimately know, understand, and be able to do. This involves defining enduring understandings, essential questions, and specific learning objectives or standards. The second stage is determine acceptable evidence. Determine acceptable evidence, it is how will we know if students have achieved the desired results. This stage focuses on planning assessments before designing lessons. It asks what evidence such as tests, projects, performances that will demonstrate understanding and proficiency. And lastly, the planned learning experiences and instruction. In UBD, it is only when desired results and evidence of the realization of the proof of the attainment of that outcome that the teacher starts to plan instruction such as design learning activities, select materials, and structure lessons. These instructional choices are explicitly crafted to equip students with the knowledge and skills needed to succeed on the assessment and achieve the desired results.
That's all about UBD or Understanding by Design by Beechins and McPay. Back to you, CJ.
Thank you, Milky, for setting us on the right path by explaining the understanding by design, or what we call the UBD. Now, let's venture to our final destination of OBE, none other than the instructional cycle. This is where all the planning and design we've discussed, the outcomes, the constructive alignment, the UBD framework, translates into an ongoing rhythm of teaching. For a clear picture of what this cycle and how it keeps learning moving forward, let's go back to the host of the College Teacher Education of Jose Rizal Memorial State University, Leia Carmela. Leia, what exactly do you mean by the word instructional cycle in OBE?
Today, we are looking at the roadmap for effective education, the instructional cycle. As this cycle shows, high-quality education is a continuous loop for planning, acting, and reflecting. We begin at the learning outcomes. Think of this as your GPS destination. Before you open a textbook, you have to ask, what is the specific change I want to see in my students? These outcomes aren't just a list of topics. They are the measurable skills and knowledge students must walk away with. Next is, we enter the teaching learning process. This isn't just a lecture. It's a dynamic environment. It starts with a pre-instructional assessment like diagnostic tests, then comes with the activities, then the last is the formative assessment. If the formative assessment fails, you must reteach the lesson if needed. Finally, we reach the summative assessment. This is the final check. Its job is to provide the final answer to our original questions. Did the student meet the learning outcomes? In short, the instructional cycles ensures that we aren't just covering a content. We are ensuring that real learning actually happens in a classroom. That is the instructional cycle. Back to you, CJ.
Thank you, Leah, for letting us understand what is the instructional cycle is all about. Thank you to all our wonderful reporters and experts for that comprehensive journey. We've seen that OBE is far more than just a policy. It's a powerful educational philosophy. It connects Dr. William Spady's broad vision of creating life-ready graduates with Professor Biggs and Dr. Tang's practical OBTL framework. This connection is made real through constructive alignment, unified by core principles, and structured through models like understanding by design. Ultimately, it creates a cohesive system where what is taught and how it's taught, and how it assessed are all intentionally aligned. The goal is clear: to produce not merely knowledgeable students, but capable, competent, and well-rounded individuals fully prepared for the world beyond these walls. For Edu News Patrol, I'm CGC. Stay informed. Good day.